Hey friends, Paul Vaillancourt here, back with something new. It's a new series I'm doing called Yes and Then What? Yes and Then What? So it's basically a series about people who've done improv, who've been improvisers, who've then taken those skills and moved forward, parlayed them into other sorts of activities. I'm super interested in this to see how we as improvisers can take these skills that we use on an art form that is essentially ephemeral, and how people can use them and leverage them into things that are more permanent or more lasting. And I'm super interested in this area, so I decided to talk to some people, friends of mine and new friends who have done this. And our first guest today, the very first guest on the very first episode, Christa Nannos, has done just that. Now, I met Christa years ago when she was in my class at IO West, and she was super fun to have in class. And then after that, she went on to do many, many things. But the thing that we focus on today is her web series called Super Single. What I think is so interesting about it is that it is a web series that she had an idea for, and she coalesced all the elements, and she did so much of it herself. She wrote it, she's in it, there's music in every episode, really catchy songs, and she got the other actors, director, all these sort of things that pulled it all together and made this thing happen. And I think it's just such a delightful piece of work. And there's a brand new quarantine episode out, so you can check that out too. You'll be right on the cutting edge of it. So that's all the setup of the show at large, and then this episode in particular. So now, without any further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy my interview with Christa Nannos. Hi everybody, Paul Vaillancourt here, and today with me is Christa Nannos, and I want to talk to you because I've known you for actually quite a few years. We met originally you were in my improv class over the summer, which was how many years ago? 6?
So.
Yeah, a long time ago, right? And you said that you went on to graduate that program at the iOS, may she rest in peace, and then Second City. And when you were at Second City, did you end up doing more sketch work at Second City?
Yeah, their program, their conservatory is, improv 2 sketch, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So once I graduated that program, I was on a house sketch team.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And what was your house sketch team's name?
Ruckus.
Ruckus, fantastic. And then were you ever on an improv team at IO, or did you end up sort of going that route at all?
I didn't do house teams at IO, but with that IO program, I created a team, or was part of a team called Walk of Shame, which did and sketch is an all-female group.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Together, which is crazy. Yeah, 6 years later.
I know.
And then I did like a one-woman show at IO that I headlined some of the Funny Women Festival things. Yeah, but I guess I did. I kind of moved towards sketch.
Yeah. So, and you are by trade a singer, a classically trained singer,
Trained in opera.
And an actress.
Uh-huh.
And so, the reason there's tons of singers and actresses here in LA, but the reason I wanted to talk to you, besides always being a fan of your work, and it was really fun having you in class and sort of following you on the internet and your journey. I get the emails and I see you on Instagram and all this kind of stuff. What I really find so interesting and so compelling about it is your bias towards action and your bias towards making. Tell me, is that a conscious thing that you do, or a feeling that you have, or what's your sort of feeling about that?
Well, I think in today's day and age, it's imperative that we do create our own content.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess just within the first couple of years of being here in LA, I really got sick and tired of waiting around, around for an agent to finally make something happen, or waiting around for an audition that was few and far between, especially in the beginning. And I just have so much creative energy that most of us actors do have, that I just wanted to channel it into something which maybe started out just as something for me. Like I started out doing a lot of YouTube parody videos that were songs, like pop songs, and then I made parodies of them. And then from that, it just kept building and building. From all of those parody songs, I created Parody Queen, which was a one-woman show that I performed kind of all around. And yeah, and then from there, I kind of created Super Single, which was my next big, venture.
Great, and that's definitely what I want to talk about today. But let's just talk about the one woman show. I think that sort of so many of us, myself included, we sort of find these creative outlets that are sort of momentarily satisfying. Like I love improv for that reason. There's like this rush of the moment, but it is in the biggest picture sort of unscalable. Did you find that you had sort of a different, that you got a different reaction, or that you had a different feeling when you had this, let's say, product of the one woman show or these videos on YouTube, this thing that you could point to and say, hey, I made this?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for starters, when you have content that's online, it's much easier to get someone to go and view it versus coming to, let's say, my improv show that might be at 11 o'clock at night.
Sure.
Somewhere. So I definitely found that out early on, which is why I was making those YouTube videos, so I could point kind of people in that direction. And it lasts longer. I mean, your show is usually one night, or you might have a run of an improv. We had a run at iOS with my sketch team on Saturday nights, which was great, but it's going to end eventually. And I definitely wanted to create content that wouldn't end.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And do you find that, like, what I found with my YouTube channel doing improv tips was that I was really surprised, like how much there's that initial sort of burst of views when you first publish a video, but then like my very first video has like thousands of views, which have accumulated over time. So that thing kind of has a life of its own. Have you found that? Have people sort of contacted you or sort of have, oh, I saw your video about this, and you're like, oh my gosh, I did that 5 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and especially with Super Single. I had a guy reach out to me, I think it was last week or the week before, on Twitter, who was like, I came across your series. I watched it. I loved it. I would love to have you on my podcast. Which is, people are just, people continually find Super Single. I was at a bar once, maybe a year ago, and someone from across the room was like, you're Super Single. Like, yeah, that's wild. She's like, I watched your show. And I'm like, that is so crazy. But I think it definitely has waves. And especially in a time like now, when we're all stuck at home in this quarantine, like people are going to be searching for things and people will find it. So.
For sure. I know that I had watched like bits and pieces of it, but because of the quarantine, I had the opportunity to watch the whole thing through in one day, and it is just a delight. I think that sort of in your information, you say that it is Crazy Ex-Girlfriend meets Fleabag, and that is so right on the money. Before I even read that, I was like, this is kind of like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend meets Fleabag, and it's exactly right. It's so fun. And so tell me, let's talk about that, because that's really the big project, sort of, right? So tell me, how did that get started? Where did that come from? Super Single.
Well, definitely was inspired by my real life. I think all great art is, in some sense or another. And yeah, it came about, it was December 2017. So we filmed it all 2018 into 2019 a bit. But I had this idea. I'm part of this acting business class called Actor Salon that meets once a week, and it's kind of an accountability group.
Okay.
Into that program being like, I need to create something. I either want to do a one-woman show, like a bigger version, because I had just done Parody Queen, or like maybe a web series. And they're like, well, you should really choose one to focus on. And I was like, I guess the web series, because people won't come to see my one-woman show. And I just started writing. I had written a bunch of sketch before, but I had never really written a TV show. And the stories just started pouring out of me. So I was writing, like end of December, January, and we filmed starting February. Like it was, I was like, I'm
Wow,
doing
it was just like you were just like a coiled spring ready to explode. And so tell me about I want to go piece by piece. So tell me about the writing process. You had written some sketches before. Was there a difference? Do you have a set writing process, or would you sort of just like write in these creative bursts when the muse came to you, or what was your practice on that?
Well, I definitely had kind of a timeline since I was eager bunny to get going. So I wrote episodes 1, 2, and 3 all within January. And mind you, I also had to write music and the songs.
Right. I want to talk about that as well. But go on.
Um, and I started filming after I wrote episodes 1 and 2 and 3, but I hadn't started writing 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 yet. I actually didn't know where the story was going to go.
Oh.
Yeah, I had like a outline, kind of how I wanted it to go, but it definitely changed over time, and a lot of it too had to do with logistics. I knew who, I had a lot of actor friends, a lot from my improv classes that I wanted to work with, who are all amazing actors. So I was blessed in a sense where I really didn't have to audition anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And, then it came down to, okay, well, where do I have access to film? I definitely had my apartment. So let me write some good scenes in my apartment. And what other places? I made a list of places where I thought I could film for free, if not free, pretty cheap. But I did the whole SAG. I'm SAG, so I had to do the whole SAG process, which is a lot of paperwork. A lot, like I had to get insurance. So it's definitely a lot of producing work, which I hadn't done before as well. But the writing process really was, okay, I got to sit here and write, and then the stories would just kind of come to me.
So by being there and being prepared to write, you felt like, oh, then the stories came to you. Another piece of the puzzle I think is super interesting about what you're saying was, well, let me ask a question first. Were you writing once production started, or were you totally done writing by the time production started?
Oh no, I'm
No,
still writing.
not even close.
Yet.
So what I think is interesting is that you sort of had a very pragmatic sort of take on it of like, where can I film? What are my resources available to me? And you wrote around that, which I think is interesting. I think sometimes, especially starting out, people writing sketches or whatever, they sort of like write their grand vision, but then they get sort of that's their first stumbling block. It's like, well, where am I going to find a space station to shoot in or whatever?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you're talking about the writing process, and you were saying that you had to write songs as well. It is a musical, and each episode contains basically what is an entire music video, as well as story elements and all that other stuff. Where did that idea come from? From your love of singing?
Yes. I wanted, when I was deciding whether I would do a woman show or web series, I knew that my kind of niche in this market is musical comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because I trained in opera and I moved out to LA 7.5 years ago, and I had never really sung in my chest voice, and I have a very low speaking voice, but I really am just a classically trained singer. I didn't do many musicals or musical comedies until I started doing parody songs out here of
Interesting
pop songs. Yeah. And I felt like that was the marketplace that people would enjoy watching, with comedy and music coming together. I didn't think kind of classically that people would be as engaged with the songs if it was more operatic. There's definitely a more of time and place for that type of music. And I actually haven't felt it much in Los Angeles, which is fine. I'm happy and glad that I'm doing the songs that I'm doing now. But yeah, writing those songs were very interesting.
So had you written, I mean, you'd written parody songs before where you had some source material kind of, but now you're writing it whole cloth. And you had a writing partner?
I did not.
Oh, but like did you write the music as well?
I collaborated with pianists. So I would like be in my car, wherever I was, with my voice notes out on my phone, and I would just sing. And I would sing, and I would kind of hold on to that. But then I would sing through the entire song usually, and I'd have a melody and kind of a chorus, and they would just, and I would have the key that I wanted in because I'd be singing it, and then they would just kind of flesh it out for me. I would maybe play a little bit on the piano, but my piano skills are very basic.
Oh, interesting. So you sort of it came to you sort of as a piece, music and words, and you sort of would develop it, and then you would sort of go to someone to formalize it and to sort of like capture it.
I also created, before I started this, I had 3 original songs out on iTunes that I wrote as well, collaborating with a DJ that's a friend of mine. So I had written music before.
Oh, great.
But it was my first time, I guess, writing my own original music and comedy infused together, which was, yeah, a trip.
Interesting. Let's take a side note on the iTunes music. What was that experience like, having these songs on iTunes? I think that's, well, another thing that I really sort of enjoy about watching your career and all your journeys is that I think you're such a really great example of the digital age, like what's possible in the digital age. We'll talk about TikTok in a minute. Because I know you're doing a lot of that now, but I think sort of like you're really doing it. You're really sort of taking advantage of what's out there. YouTube, I want to make a series. I made it. I put it on YouTube. It goes worldwide. You made these songs. You put them on iTunes. How was that? How did that go?
Gosh, I mean, it was great. I also made 2 really fun music videos from those original songs, and my DP from those music videos is a good friend of mine. She DP'd Super Single.
Excellent.
So I've done it over the last 7 years, and I think it actually comes back to improv, is that you really stick with the people that are in your tribe. Like, you find your community and you stick with them, which I think is kind of the mindset that most improvisers have, that
True.
maybe a lot of improvisers don't have when they come to LA. We have a really good founding of like who we can trust and our friends, and like, I'm going to support you and you're going to support me back. Like, I know we're going to rise together in this. But my original songs, yeah, that was a trip. That was really fun to do. I definitely went into it being like, I'm going to be the next Demi Lovato, which is not my vibe. So the songs, I love them. They are quite poppy. And, collaborating with a DJ, there's some like EDM type of sounds. And
Right.
So at least one of them heavily, which was very, very fun. And yeah, and crazy. And people are finding them to this day too. My friend messaged me. She's like, I just heard your song in this restaurant that I'm in Denver, Colorado.
What? That's amazing.
That's insane. I was like, I should be making money off of that somehow. Like on Spotify and like on a looped playlist. But yeah, that was crazy to get that text too. I'm like, I'm famous, kind of.
That's amazing. And so what I really think is interesting, what you just said about sort of finding the DP for your music videos and then sort of working with her again on Super Single, is it seems like being that person, that sort of lightning rod, that creative force of like, well, I'm going to do this, sort of draws in those resources and draws in those people. Have you found that?
Yeah, completely. So much. Like I said, I mean, I was really blessed that I didn't have to audition any actors. I had a lot of people. I mean, I have a great group of friends that I wanted to work with anyways. And then I had a lot of people just messaging me, like, I want to work with you. Same thing with my, cast and crew. Finding crew was a little bit harder. DP was very easy. I didn't know anyone that did sound, but then I hired an amazing sound person who's stuck with me the whole time. And you kind of, once, if you are that force, I think when you reach out to other people for asks, like, it's easy for them to like recommend somebody else. Like, you're of value, they're of value. It's kind of easy to find.
Right. I feel like a lot of people are sort of kind of waiting around for that first domino to fall. And then they're like, yeah, let's do that. But it's like, what I love about you is you're that first domino. You sort of go from 0 to 1. 1 to 2, I think, is easy, but 0 to 1 is really the sticking point, isn't it? And I really love that about your work, is I feel like that seems to be like a theme of like, oh, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. And then all the resources sort of align around that. So let's get deeper into the process. So you're writing, and you've said that a lot more producing than you had done before on the videos. What else was sort of a surprise? It's 8 episodes, is that right?
8 episodes.
Yeah, that's no small feat. That's a lot of episodes, and they're not short. They're like
maybe between like 6 and 9 minutes ish, somewhere in there. That's a fair amount of shooting. And music, let's not forget about that. What were some of the other sort of challenges that you faced, like doing that's like basically, I mean, that's almost a whole movie in terms of like footage wise.
Yeah, it was a lot. And you really had to carve out the time to get the footage that you wanted. My first episode, I think, was maybe 6-7 minutes long. And I only set aside 4 hours in my apartment to get it all done, which was pushing it. And I didn't realize that until I started filming, and how many takes you have to do, how many different angles, especially for the music videos. That's a whole feat in itself. You do a lot of angles and takes and close-ups and whatnot with that. But I think the biggest challenge was I was working with a bunch of actors that were on TV shows, and their schedules aligning with my schedule was difficult. And I had to rewrite 2 episodes last minute before filming because my other lead girl booked a TV show and the filming schedule changed. And I had already, that was episode 6, I had already booked the location. I had at least 15 to 20 people locked in for that day of filming. It was a big day and I had to do it. We were already on time crunched, and so I had to rewrite her out of the script essentially.
Oh, man.
It completely changed the story. And I had to do that within, I think it was like a week and a half of filming. Yeah. So that was my biggest challenge, I think, was aligning everyone's schedules. And I was also scheduling people. So I had to hire the background, get all the crew, all of the cast, makeup, everything to align together. You try to get a group hangout with your friends for Friday night drinks, and that's a feat in itself. But like filming, that was quite difficult. And like, to be honest, I mean, it was a web series compared to a TV show for these actors. Their agents aren't going to book them out for my web series. So that was, I think, the biggest hurdle. As I felt like this is a very important thing that they're part of, but the agents maybe not so much. And there's no money in it really for the agents compared to a Fox TV show.
Right.
So I think that was my biggest challenge. And like, as I'm writing season 2, which I'm almost done with, it's definitely going to be challenging to try to make that all work again. But I'm hopefully going to maybe hire a producer or someone that can come on board with me so everything doesn't fall on my shoulders. And also maybe trying to work out deals with the agents. I'm also hopefully going to, now for season 2, I'm kind of skipping ahead, but I am writing all the episodes out. I know I'm going to fall into the trap of having to rewrite things. I know it's going to happen. That's just life. And thank God I have improv behind me, so I can kind of pick up and keep going. But ideally, yeah, I'm going to write the whole season 2 and kind of have a bigger plan and film, I think, more condensedly. With season 1, we filmed over the entire course of the year. Mm-hmm. Also, hadn't written it. had to write and figure out where it was going. So now if I can have it written out, we can definitely film a lot more. Maybe we'll film all of the working women, which is the workplace that I've created for Britt and her coworkers. We might maybe film all of that. So that would be episodes like 2, 5, and 6, and get that footage done, which will be different, filming in itself like that, because we did film for the most part chronologically. We jumped ahead a little bit in certain areas, but yeah, when we get to filming season 2, I definitely am hoping that it's gonna the process will be a little bit easier in a sense if we can film and get it done quicker, and then we can just be in editing longer.
Great, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you've really taken lessons from the first thing, and the second season will be logistically, at least a little more eyes open, like, okay, I know kind of what's coming up. You talked a lot about sort of hiring people for this and for that. And you finance this whole thing yourself, right?
I did.
How was that as a challenge? I mean, sound people get paid what sound people get paid. They don't care if it's a web series or the Academy Awards. They don't care.
Yeah, no, it was expensive. It was very expensive, but yeah, I went into it. I had this budget. Thank God, I have blessed parents who gave me some money, and I just put it towards this. I worked around. I made deals where I could. I made sure to hire and pay crew what they needed to be paid to be there. I made the mistake on episode 1 of hiring a friend to do sound, and she bailed the day before filming.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that was eye-opening. But then from it, a blessing in disguise, I hired this amazing sound, Ed Spangler, and he was with me every episode since. And he was great. So, but yeah, I was like, okay, I need to, give money to the people that are going to show up 100%. Same thing with, a lot of background, a lot of friends where I wasn't going to pay them money, but pay them food and whatnot for background. They flaked. I mean, that's kind of LA. That happens.
Right.
But yeah, I think in terms of season 2, I also have a lit manager now. And I wrote Super Single into a pilot, a half-hour long pilot. Had a successful pilot reading at Second City, a staged kind of performance of it. And we've been pitching it around Hollywood kind of as a half-hour show, which has been really fun. But now with writing season 2, I kind of have him on board, which I didn't have from season 1. And I think we're going to look for investors this time. Investors or raising money. I'm not going to fully fund it. I also have now written season 2 to be a little bit grander than season 1.
Right.
Hopes that I can get more money for it. I have a lot more group numbers, which, for season 1, most of the songs up until the end were just me, because logistically it makes easier sense for me to write and then record the songs in my apartment just by myself and then film them. Sometimes it was the director and the DP filming the music video. But now, my vision for it is definitely more like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, where these songs can be bigger and grander.
And I want to hang a lantern on that idea. I mean, the only reason that this sort of next step is possible is because the first step happened. Like, you have this first season to show as like proof of concept, and look, I really did this thing on my own. And now it's because of that you got the lit manager, and it's because of that these other bigger doors have opened. I mean, that's true, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Fantastic. I think it really speaks back to, as I said, what I really like is just that sort of forward motion of like, I want to do this, I'm going to do this, and how the resources and things align around that positive action. We only have a couple minutes left, but there's two last things that I want to talk about. One is, speaking about positive action, you're always doing something. I get your emails, or I see you on Instagram, and now TikTok, right? You're doing talk about like the most like stripped down. It's just you, I imagine, in your apartment with a tripod, maybe, I don't know, but it's hilarious. How have you enjoyed doing TikTok?
Oh, it brings me so much joy. I've never felt older than, now doing TikTok, because it really is kind of like a teen sensation. But it's definitely, a lot of celebrities have TikToks now. It has been such a joy in my quarantine apartment life. I live by myself as well. So it helps, A, to pass the time, but B, I really feel like I'm being creative when I make these TikTok videos. Most of the time they're very silly, but it's been fun to kind of put together little stories with them. I have one about toilet paper, a whole like quarantine Grinch schedule. They've been very fun. And like, I mean, bless these teens who are watching. Some of them have thousands of views.
That's amazing.
So strange. But yeah, people, at the end of the day, I think I thought about this a lot in quarantine too. I'm like, what is my purpose kind of in the world? And I really feel like it's to connect with people and inspire people and entertain. And whether that's, making them laugh, for the most part, I do comedy. or really, engaging them in however that has to be, but really just connecting with people and lifting their spirits. I have a lot of people that message me and say how much they like my TikTok videos, how entertained they are now in this time of, craziness. And also, like, I mean, I'm fighting Lyme disease. I'm healing from that. And that story has really inspired a lot of people.
Absolutely, for sure.
So yeah, I think it's really important for all artists to kind of share our voices and our gifts and our talents. And
Sure.
yeah.
And I think that's totally true. And I definitely see that in what you're doing. I definitely find it inspirational. And it's like, oh my gosh, look, she's just doing it. And I think that's so great, because I think we sort of put these blocks in front of ourselves. We're like, oh, I can't do it. I don't really know what to, but you're just figuring it out. You're making it happen. So in our last final couple minutes here, what is some advice you would have for someone who's thinking about, or specifically as we sort of started off about talking about improvisers and how sometimes we sort of, love this thing of improv, but it's sort of like so transient. What advice do you have for them, or for an actor, for a writer, for anybody who's thinking about doing it or kind of waiting?
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those people?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really think improv is such a great foundational skill to have. And what really has come out from improv with me is not only having that as kind of a talent and a skill, but the community that I've built from my improv classes. So I think people that are, wanting to start and create something, everyone else in their improv class for the most part is going to have that same desire. So I really think it's important to kind of like collaborate with those people and find your tribe and hold on to them. Yeah, like I said, when I was starting with Super Single, like, it was very easy for me to cast people because everyone wanted to be in it. And I think that will just like continue to go forward. I leapt and then the net appeared. That was my process of how I do things and how I'm continually doing things as I move forward in life. But yeah, I think you're not alone if you're feeling like, oh, I want to create something, I just don't know where to start. Like, so many other people want to create as well. So you just kind of have to take a baby step and maybe collaborate with someone else, or talk about it, or reach out to someone, like me. I'm always giving talkbacks and advice to people who are like, I want to create a web series. How'd you do it? I'm like, let's have a phone call. I'm happy to connect. I think a lot of people, especially in the improv world, are very open to that, and they want to give back and they want to help other people on their journey. So I think, yeah, just starting.
Well, there you go. That was a great ending. You're probably going to get more messages and phone calls than you want, but that's very nice of you to put yourself out there like that. I'm going to link all of your Super Single is the name of the series. It's on YouTube right now. It is, as I said, a delight. It's super fun. It's a quick watch. Some of those songs got in my head, and I was like humming them for the rest of the day for sure. But I'll link all your stuff down below. Thank you so much for taking the time. Take care of yourself. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Great. I'm going to stop there. Boom, stop.